Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Beginner Podcast Series. I'm Ava, your co-host for today, and I am beyond excited to have you here with us. Whether you've been learning English with us for a while, or you're just tuning in, you're in for a treat. Today, we're going to dive into some of the most essential grammar points you'll need in your English journey. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll feel more confident in your English than ever before.
That's right, Ava. Hey everyone, I'm Henry, and I couldn't agree more. Today's episode is going to be a blast, because we're not just reviewing grammar. Oh no, we're going to make it fun, simple, and totally practical. We'll go over 10 key grammar points, and as a bonus, we're also going to teach you 10 super useful vocabulary words to help you put those grammar rules into action. And don't worry, we'll keep things easy to follow so everyone can understand.
Exactly, Henry. You know, learning grammar can sometimes feel a little like solving a puzzle. Once you figure out how all the pieces fit, it starts to make a lot of sense. And guess what? By the end of this episode, those grammar pieces are going to fit perfectly. Plus, we've got a fun little challenge for you at the end, so stick with us until the very last minute. It'll be worth it, we promise.
Oh, definitely. And trust us, this is not going to be one of those boring grammar lessons where you just memorize rules. Nope. We're going to have some fun examples, easy explanations, and, of course, some real-life situations where you can use what you learn. So grab your notebook, a cup of coffee, tea, or whatever makes you feel comfortable, and let's jump into this together. You know, Ava, before we get into the specific grammar points, I think it's important to talk about why grammar matters. Sometimes people think, oh, grammar is just a bunch of rules, but really, it's more than that. It's the backbone of a language. When you know the grammar, you're able to build sentences that people can easily understand. It's like playing a sport. Knowing the rules helps you play the game better, right?
Exactly, Henry. It's like the difference between someone saying, I went store versus I went to the store. That little word too makes a huge difference. Grammar gives us the tools to communicate clearly and avoid confusion. And honestly, when you start getting the hang of it, it's kind of fun. You feel this sense of accomplishment, like, yes, I said that right. And hey, who doesn't love feeling proud of their progress?
Totally. And let's be real. If you're speaking to someone and your grammar is all over the place, it's kind of like giving them a puzzle where the pieces don't fit. They might get the general idea, but it's going to be confusing. But if you know the basics, you can have clear conversations, and that's when the magic happens. It's all about being understood, and that's what we're going to help you with today.
Couldn't have said it better, Henry. So if you're someone who wants to speak English clearly and confidently, whether you're chatting with a friend, travelling, or maybe even working in an English-speaking environment, then grammar is your best friend. And the good news is, we're going to make it as easy as possible for you today. Let's get started with the basics. All right, let's kick things off with one of the most important and basic rules in English: subject-verb agreement. This simply means that the subject, which is the person or thing doing the action, needs to match the verb, which is the action itself. So if the subject is singular, the verb should be singular too. And if the subject is plural, you guessed it, the verb should be plural as well.
Exactly! So for example, you wouldn't say, the dog run fast. You'd say, the dog runs fast. The subject is dog, which is singular, so the verb run has to agree with it by becoming runs. Now, if you were talking about more than one dog, you'd say, the dogs run fast. Notice how the verb changes depending on the subject.
Right! It's all about making sure they match. And don't worry if this sounds tricky at first. Once you start practicing, it becomes second nature. Our first vocabulary word today is agree. In grammar, to agree means that the subject and verb match each other. And you know what's cool? When you start paying attention to this rule, you'll hear it everywhere, from conversations to movies.
Exactly. And it's not just about sounding correct. It's about being understood easily. If your subject and verb don't agree, people might have to stop and think about what you mean. And that slows down communication. So remember, agreement is key. Keep practicing this, and you'll see how much more natural your English will sound. Now, let's move on to something you'll use every single day. The simple present tense. We use this tense when we're talking about things that happen regularly, habits, or general truths. It's the tense of everyday life. For example, I wake up at 7 a.m. or she likes coffee. It's all about what you do, usually or often.
Exactly. Think of it as your default tense. When you want to talk about something that happens all the time or something that's true in general, this is the tense you'll use, like, the sun rises in the east, or we go to school every day. Notice how the verb changes depending on the subject. For I and we, the verb stays simple. But for she and he, we add an S to the verb. So simple, right?
Totally. And it's one of the first things you'll get comfortable with when learning English, because it comes up in almost every conversation. For example, you could say, I eat breakfast every morning, or she plays tennis on weekends. Easy and super useful. Now, here's our second vocabulary word, routine. A routine is something you do regularly, like brushing your teeth or, well, using the simple present tense to describe your daily life.
Exactly. So next time someone asks, what's your daily routine? You can confidently answer in the simple present tense like I wake up at 7, I eat breakfast, and then I go to work. It's as simple as that. Now let's talk about articles. These are the little words a, an, and the that come before nouns. Even though they're small, they play a huge role in making your sentences sound natural. So when do you use them? Well, we use a or an when talking about something for the first time, something that isn't specific. For example, I saw a dog. But when we're talking about something we've already mentioned or something specific, we use the, like I saw the dog again.
Exactly. And let's not forget the difference between a and an. You use a before a word that starts with a consonant sound, like a book, and an before a word that starts with a vowel sound, like an apple. So if you're talking about something specific, like the book on the table, everyone knows exactly which book you're talking about. It's clear and specific.
That's our third vocabulary word for today, specific. Something is specific when it's clear and definite, like the book or the dog. So next time you want to tell a story or describe something, think about whether you're introducing something new or talking about something specific.
Right. It's all about giving your listener the right amount of information. If you're talking about something new, go with a or an. If it's something everyone knows, go with the. Easy as pie. And trust me, once you start using articles correctly, your sentences will sound much smoother. Let's move on to plurals. This is how we talk about more than one of something. Most of the time, you just add an S to the end of a word. For example, one cat becomes 2 cats, or one book becomes 3 books. Easy, right? But English wouldn't be English without a few exceptions.
Oh yes, the infamous exceptions. Some words don't follow the regular add-ans rule. For example, child becomes children, and man becomes men. There are also words that stay the same whether they're singular or plural, like fish or sheep. English loves to keep us on our toes, doesn't it?
Definitely. But the good news is, once you learn the common exceptions, they'll stick with you. And here's our fourth vocabulary word, exception. An exception is something that doesn't follow the usual rule. So, while most words follow the simple S rule, always be on the lookout for those tricky exceptions.
Exactly. And don't let those exceptions scare you. With practice, you'll get used to them and soon they'll just be another part of your growing English vocabulary. So next time you're talking about more than one thing, remember to think about whether the word is regular or one of those fun little exceptions. Now let's talk about pronouns. Pronouns are words like I, you, he, she, we, and they. They're used to replace nouns and make your sentences shorter and clearer. Instead of saying, Henry is talking over and over, we can just say, he is talking. It makes conversation flow better, right?
Exactly. Pronouns are like shortcuts. Instead of repeating the same nouns, you use pronouns to make things smoother. For example, if you're telling a story about your friend, Instead of saying, Ava went to the store, Ava bought some apples. Ava went home. You could say, Ava went to the store. She bought some apples. She went home. Much easier on the ears, right?
Totally. And pronouns are also great for talking about groups of people. Instead of saying, Ava and Henry went to the park, you can say, they went to the park. So much quicker. Here's our fifth vocabulary word, replace. Pronouns replace nouns to keep sentences from getting too repetitive.
Right. Pronouns are your friends when it comes to simplifying sentences. Once you get comfortable with them, your English will sound much more natural. So, next time you're tempted to repeat a noun, try replacing it with a pronoun instead. All right, let's talk about adjectives. These are the words that make our language colorful. Adjectives describe nouns, so they tell us more about people, places, or things. For example, big, small, happy, blue, and fast are all adjectives. Without adjectives, sentences would be pretty boring.
Exactly, Henry. Imagine if you could only say, I have a dog. Boring, right? But if you say, I have a big friendly dog, now we have a picture in our heads. Adjectives give our sentences flavour and personality. You can describe almost anything with adjectives: people, animals, food, even your feelings, like, she's a happy person, or I love delicious pizza.
Totally! And the great thing about adjectives is, once you start using them, you'll notice how much more interesting your conversations become. For example, the sky is blue is nice, but the sky is bright blue with fluffy clouds is way more fun to say. Our sixth vocabulary word is describe. When you use adjectives, you describe things in more detail, making your sentences richer.
Exactly. So next time you're telling a story or just talking about something, throw in a few adjectives to spice it up. Whether it's a beautiful sunset or a tasty meal, adjectives help you paint a picture with your words. Next up, we have prepositions. These are little words that show the relationship between things, like where something is or how things are connected. Words like in, on, under, next to, and between are all prepositions. They help us understand where things are in space and time.
That's right. For example, you can say, the book is on the table, or the cat is under the chair. These little words might seem small, but they're really important. They tell us exactly where things are, like, I'm at the store, or she's in the car. Without prepositions, we'd be lost. Literally.
And here's where it gets fun. Prepositions also show relationships between ideas. You could say, the movie starts at 7, or I'll meet you after work. Our seventh vocabulary word is relationship. A relationship is how two things are connected, and prepositions help us understand those connections.
Exactly. Prepositions might seem tricky at first, but with practice, they become second nature. So next time you're describing where something is or when something happens, just think about which preposition fits best. Now, let's move on to conjunctions. Words that connect ideas, like and, but, or. These little words are like glue. They help stick your sentences together so you can combine thoughts. For example, I like pizza and ice cream, or I want to go to the park but it's raining.
Yes! Without conjunctions, our sentences would sound choppy and disconnected. Imagine saying, I like pizza, I like ice cream. It's fine, but using and makes it smoother. I like pizza and ice cream. Or when you want to show contrast, you can use but, like, I want to go out, but it's too cold. Conjunctions are essential for making your sentences flow nicely.
Exactly. They help keep your ideas connected and your conversations easy to follow. Our eighth vocabulary word is connect. Conjunctions connect different ideas or actions so your thoughts can flow more naturally.
So next time you're talking about multiple things or ideas, think about how you can use conjunctions to bring them together. Whether you're combining things with and, showing differences with but, or offering choices with or, conjunctions will keep your sentences smooth and clear. Let's not forget about question words like who, what, where, when, why, and how. These words are your go-to tools when you need information or want to start a conversation. For example, what is your name? Or where do you live? These words help you ask for details.
Exactly. And these question words are super useful in everyday conversations. If you're traveling and need help, you could ask, "Where is the nearest bus stop?" Or if you're curious about something, you might ask, "How does this work?" Question words help you learn more about the world around you, so it's important to get comfortable using them.
And the great thing is, once you know these question words, you can start conversations with almost anyone. It's a great way to practice English. Our 9th vocabulary word is information. Information is what you get when you ask a question, facts or details about something.
So next time you're curious or need help, don't be shy. Use your question words to ask for information. Whether it's what, where, why, or how, these little words are powerful tools for communication. Last but not least, let's talk about negatives. How to say no or not. In English, to make a sentence negative, you usually add the word not after the verb. For example, instead of saying, "I like pizza," you can say, "I do not like pizza," to show the opposite.
Exactly. And you can make most sentences negative by adding not or using contractions like don't or isn't. For example, she is not here, or they don't like coffee. Negatives are super useful for expressing what you don't want, don't like, or aren't going to do.
Right. And the great thing is, negatives are pretty simple once you get the hang of them. Just remember to place not after the verb, and you're good to go. Our 10th vocabulary word is negative. A negative is the opposite of something positive. It shows what isn't happening.
So next time you need to say no or talk about something that isn't happening, just add that little not or use a contraction like don't. You'll be making clear, simple sentences in no time. All right, Henry, we've gone through 10 essential grammar points today. Subject-verb agreement, simple present tense, articles, plurals, pronouns, adjectives, prepositions, conjunctions, question words and negatives. And we've also learned 10 useful vocabulary words: agree, routine, specific, exception, replace, describe, relationship, connect, information, and negative.
Exactly. And remember, these grammar rules and vocabulary words are the building blocks of clear communication. You don't have to be perfect, but practicing these basics will give you a strong foundation. And once you've got that, the rest of the language just starts falling into place naturally.
Now, here's a little challenge for all of you listening. Try to use at least 5 of these grammar rules and vocabulary words in sentences this week. Whether you're practicing with a friend, writing in a journal, or even just thinking to yourself, the more you use these words and rules, the more comfortable they'll feel.
And remember, learning English is a journey. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to ask questions. What's important is that you keep practicing and keep having fun with it. The more you engage with the language, the faster you'll improve.
That's right. And don't forget, you can always go back and listen to this episode again if you need a refresher. We're here to help you every step of the way, so keep practicing, stay curious, and most importantly, enjoy the process.
Well, that's all we have for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us on this fun and easy grammar review. We hope you found it helpful, and maybe even a little bit fun.
And if you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend who's also learning English, and let us know in the comments what grammar tip you found most helpful. We love hearing from you.
We'll be back next time with more tips, lessons, and challenges to help you along your English journey. So until then, keep learning, keep practicing, and remember, you've totally got this.
See you next time, everyone. Keep up the great work, and we'll be here to help you with every step. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.